the medical student and the man who could not let go. On the morning of April 9th, 2019, students and staff moved about their daily routines outside Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, Kenya. It seemed like an ordinary day. Doctors attended to patients, students hurried between classes. People walked through the hospital grounds without the slightest idea that within minutes a tragedy would unfold that would shock the entire nation. At the center of this story was a young woman named Ivy Wangechi. She was a medical student at Moi University. Friends described her as bright, hardworking, and focused on her future. Like many young people pursuing demanding careers, Ivy spent most of her time studying and working toward her dream of becoming a doctor. She had her whole life ahead of her, but somewhere else another story was unfolding, a story that would eventually collide with hers. According to court records and media reports, Naftali Kinuthia had known Ivy for several years. The exact nature of their relationship would later become a major point of dispute. Kinuthia claimed they had shared a close and intimate relationship. However, during the trial, the court found that evidence presented did not prove the existence of the romantic relationship that he alleged existed. What is known is that Kinuthia became emotionally attached to Ivy. Over time, that attachment allegedly grew into obsession. According to testimony presented during the case, Kinuthia believed that Ivy was becoming distant. He reportedly felt hurt and rejected. He later claimed he had invested emotionally and financially in her life. But regardless of how he viewed the relationship, the court would later conclude that nothing justified what happened next. In the days leading up to the murder, investigators alleged that Kinuthia traveled from Nairobi to Eldoret. According to prosecutors, he carried weapons with him. The prosecution argued that this demonstrated planning and premeditation. On the morning of April 9th, Ivy was outside Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. Witnesses later told investigators that she had been called outside. Moments later, horror unfolded in broad daylight in front of witnesses. According to court findings, Kinuthia attacked Ivy using an axe. The attack was sudden and brutal. Witnesses screamed. Some attempted to intervene. Others froze in shock. The violence unfolded so quickly that there was little anyone could do. Students and members of the public and watched in disbelief as a promising young medical student lost her life. News of the attack spread rapidly across Eldoret. Within hours, the story had reached every corner of Kenya. Social media exploded with outrage. Many could not understand how such violence could occur in public. Others questioned whether warning signs had been missed. As police began investigating, details slowly emerged. Authorities arrested Naftali Kinuthia and charged him with murder. The case immediately attracted national attention. For many Kenyans, it appeared to be another example of what can happen when obsession, rejection, and unresolved emotions turn dangerous. But as the legal process began, questions remained. What had motivated the attack? Was this truly a relationship gone wrong? Or was it a one-sided attachment that had spiraled into something darker? Over the following years, prosecutors built their case. Evidence was presented before the High Court. Witnesses testified. Investigators reconstructed the events leading up to the killing. According to the prosecution, Kinuthia had traveled to Eldoret armed with weapons and sought out Ivy before attacking her. The prosecution argued that the actions were deliberate and planned. The defense presented a different picture. Kinuthia claimed he had been emotionally hurt. He alleged that he had been involved with Ivy and had become overwhelmed by feelings of betrayal and rejection. At one point, he expressed regret and stated that he wished he had handled the situation differently. However, the court was tasked with determining not emotions, but evidence. And evidence became the key issue. One of the most important findings in the case involved the alleged relationship itself. Kinuthia maintained that he and Ivy had been romantically involved. Yet after examining the available evidence, including communications presented in court, the judge stated that there was insufficient proof to establish the intimate relationship claimed by the accused. That finding would become significant because it suggested that the narrative of a failed romance may not have reflected the full reality of the situation. As proceedings continued, Kenyans followed every development closely. Many young women saw the case as a frightening reminder of how quickly unwanted attention can escalate. Others viewed it as a warning about obsession disguised as love. Psychologists and commentators discussed the difference between genuine affection and possessiveness. They argued that real love respects boundaries, obsession attempts to control them. The case also sparked conversations about rejection. Every day, people experience heartbreak. Relationships and feelings are not returned, yet the overwhelming majority of people process those experiences without violence. The murder of Ivy Wangechi raised difficult questions about entitlement, emotional regulation, and the dangers of refusing to accept another person's choices. Years after the attack, the High Court delivered its judgment. In October 2023, Justice Reuben Githinji found Naftali Kinuthia guilty of murder. The court concluded that the prosecution had proved its case beyond reasonable doubt. The judge noted that the attack involved a lethal weapon and demonstrated intention to kill. The argument that the accused had been provoked was rejected. The court also reiterated that there was insufficient evidence supporting the existence of the romantic relationship that Kinuthia had claimed. For Ivy's family, the verdict marked an important step toward justice. But it could never bring her back. A daughter was gone, a future doctor was gone, a young woman whose life was just beginning was gone forever. The story was not yet over. In December 2023, the court returned for the Senskinnadanten Kansin. The prosecution sought a severe punishment. After considering the circumstances, the judge sentenced Naftali Kinuthia to 40 years in prison. The sentence reflected the seriousness of the crime and the devastating impact it had on Ivy's family and the wider community. Today, years after the murder, Ivy Wangechi's story continues to resonate across Kenya, not simply because of how she died, but because of what her death revealed. It exposed the dangers of obsession, it highlighted the importance of respecting personal boundaries, and it reminded the country that rejection is never an excuse for violence. Love is often celebrated as one of humanity's most beautiful emotions. It inspires sacrifice, loyalty, and compassion. But when affection becomes possession, when admiration becomes obsession, and when another person's freedom is viewed as something to be controlled, tragedy can follow. The life of Ivy Wangechi stands as a reminder that every individual has the right to choose who they love, who they trust, and who they wish to walk away from. No disagreement, no rejection, no heartbreak, and no perceived betrayal can ever justify taking a human life. As Kenya continues to remember Ivy, her story remains more than a crime headline. It is a cautionary tale, a warning about obsession, a lesson about boundaries, and a reminder of the devastating consequences that can occur when one person refuses to let go. This is not just the story of a murder, it is the story of a future stolen, a family forever changed, and a young woman whose dream of healing others was cut short long before it could be fulfilled. If you love this story, subscribe to Motion Tell Cinemas for more.